This story from 2 Kings reflects back to us our humanity and also our deepest longings. The lectionary reading that we just heard chops up the story, so I'd like to just tell the story in its fullness and then maybe make some commentary as we go along. Naaman was a powerful and very talented army commander for the king of Aram, which was basically modern-day Syria. He was the general who decisively defeated the Israeli army in a battle some point before this story gets told about him. Naaman had a skin disease. The Bible calls it leprosy, but leprosy as we understand it did not exist in the ancient world. So he had some kind of skin disease that may have caused him pain and discomfort. It may have caused him some kind of social ostracism, because in the ancient world, in some cultures, skin disease meant that you were unclean, ritually unclean. Clearly, it didn't have much of an impact on his military career, but for whatever reason, Naaman wanted to be rid of this. And this kidnapped, enslaved young woman was working for his wife. The girl was an Israelite, probably captured in one of the many cross-border raids. She told Naaman's wife that there was a prophet in Israel that might be able to heal her husband. Naaman's journey towards healing begins by listening to the voice of an indigenous person whom he had enslaved. So Naaman goes to his king and he asks for permission to go to Israel to seek this healing. And in good diplomatic fashion, following protocols, the king writes a letter to take with Naaman to the king of Israel. You don't just go sending your top military commander into your enemy's territory. That could be seen as maybe an aggressive action. So he gives him this letter. Doesn't mention the girl, doesn't mention the prophet. And so the king of Israel reads this letter and he thinks that the other king is asking him to heal Naaman. So he tears his clothes, which is a sign of hearing blasphemy. The blasphemy is that he thought he was being asked to take the power of God and use it for himself, use it for healing. He is suspicious and he thinks, this is a trick. They're just trying to bait me into war. Well, Elisha, the prophet, that the young woman was talking about, somehow he knows what's happening in the palace. And he sends word to the king of Israel, hey, send Naaman to me. So Naaman arrives at Elijah's house with his whole entourage, chariots, soldiers, horses, baggage, wagons, God knows what else. I imagine them, showing up and coming to a halt like in some Western film, with this big cloud of dust. And as the dust begins to lift, this messenger comes out of Elijah's house and goes up to Naaman and says, my master says, go wash in the Jordan 7 times. Naaman goes apoplectic. He wants something more than that. He wants spectacle. He wants drama. He wants to be healed, powerful man to powerful man. This is the way his world operates. He lives in a hierarchical world, and he knows where he fits. He wants this prophet to put on his alb and his stole, come out, say some magic words, wave his hand over the place, and heal. Presto, boom. Have it just miraculously healed before his eyes. Members of Naaman's entourage, probably used to his outbursts, talk him off the ledge. They say, hey, you know what? We've come all this way already. It's just a little bit further to the Jordan. You know, if this prophet had said, go climb a mountain, you'd have done that. So we're here, let's just go do this thing. So Naaman and the rest of them go to the Jordan River. And when they get there, he didn't simply wash in the Jordan as Elisha had instructed him. He immerses himself in the river. Maybe he did that out of spite. Well, you think I'm washing it? Fine, I'll show you. I'll just jump in. Maybe it was because of the abundance of it all, thinking, you know what, if a little washing's good, a whole lot more is going to be better. For whatever reason, he gets in, fully immerses himself in the river all the way in. And when he's in there, he feels the current, as gentle as it was, flowing over his body. He feels his senses, his hearing and his vision dull and blur as the water fills his ears and his eyes. The buoyancy of the water makes him feel weightless. After a long, dusty day of travel, I imagine that he also felt relieved and clean and refreshed. Think about your own experiences in a body of water in nature. In limiting our exterior senses, water heightens our inner experience. Feeling water all over our bodies at the same time is an incredibly intimate experience. Naaman emerged from the river healed. The skin on his body was restored. He was refreshed. He was relieved. But more importantly, Naaman was grateful. A gratitude went into his skin and went deeper into his bones, and even deeper than that, gratitude settled into his soul. So Naaman goes from the river. On his way home, he goes back past Elisha's house to offer him gifts in celebration of this wonderful and marvelous thing that has happened to him. And he says in the midst of this, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. And then he asks Elisha, can I take home a couple mule loads of Israeli soil? Because he wants to use that soil to kneel on when he prays, when he gets home. The central question of this story is, where on earth will we find God? Will we find God in Syria or in Israel? In the river Pharpar or the river Jordan? At the hands of a prophet or in the presence of a king? In a river or on the soil? In our watershed or another? Inside of us or outside of us? Elisha tells Naaman to go to the river Jordan, not because it has more healing powers than any other river around, but because it was the only way that Naaman was going to let go of control. The control that he had used to make himself who he was, for better and for worse. By submitting to nature, rather than dominating it like he was used to dominating everything else in his life, it was only when he let go of that Naaman encountered God. And the healing that he encountered went beyond his skin and into his heart. It changed who he was. Naaman had the experience, and he was changed, but he only understood half the meaning. He rightly sensed that God was present in this place, in this nature, in this river, and in this soil, but he drew political boundaries around it and said God is only there, not anywhere else. Jesus would tell this same story in a synagogue in his hometown. And when he retold the story, he pointed out its universal message, that the healing power of God, the life and love of God, is for everyone, in all places, at all times. And the people who heard him retell the story and offer that interpretation grabbed him and tried to throw him over a cliff. The river Jordan flows through this story. Naaman is long dead. So is the enslaved woman who pointed him towards the healing power. Elisha and the kings of Israel are all dead, yet the Jordan still flows. For thousands of years, the Jordan has brought life to the people and creatures who live on its banks and drink from its flow. When Jesus emerged up out of the river Jordan, steadied by the hand of his cousin John, water flowing off of his face and his body, he heard the words that we all long to hear in the rivers of our lives. This is my child. This is my beloved child.